Hi, my name is Mark and I teach economics. The purpose of this video is to discuss the economic theory behind the elimination of the Federal Reserve. Here's the theory. It's good to be the king. What does that mean? It means in the Middle Ages, if you were the king or in the king's court and you were close to the nobles, you would receive all the riches, all the benefits. You were the first receivers of the money. People, the peasants, in the far distant reaches of the kingdom of the empire would receive trickle-down theory. So similar with the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is an economic monopoly, and there's a lot of theoreticians, economists, going back to the debates of John Law and Turgot, the French economist, and Mises, Hayek, and Keynes. All these people engaged in the idea that monetary policy may or may not be good. Here's the underlying premise. The economic theory behind the elimination of the Federal Reserve is the Federal Reserve is a monopoly. Monopolies create productive and allocative inefficiencies because they set prices. Whenever a price is set and not allowed to fluctuate based on supply and demand, relative prices, valuations on subjective intertemporal valuations of individuals, you have an inefficient allocation of productive resources. And this would be an example like rent control. If everybody said, okay, all the rent in New York should be $300 a month, then you'd have a massive non-price rationing system. In order to get an apartment, you'd really have to know somebody. Well, this is similar in terms of money. Money is being rationed in a non-price system because the interest rate is the price, and the Federal Reserve sets the price at whatever level they want. It's good to be the king. The king of the Federal Reserve is the chairman of the Federal Reserve, the king of the United States. We actually have a king in the United States, and it's called the chairman of the Federal Reserve. They determine how much money is printed. They determine how much the interest rate is, and this determines the wealth of the people they prefer to enrich. And again, this is based on economic theory. If you go to Hayek, Mises, Ludwig von Mises, Hayek, certainly he won the Nobel Prize. And even if you look at people like Milton Friedman, they may be alluding to this. But certainly Ron Paul, Senator Dr. Ron Paul, would also agree with this. We basically have a metaphorical king in the United States of America, the Federal Reserve, based on this policy of interest rate setting. It creates the super wealthy and a lot of poverty. Now, what are the alternatives to the Federal Reserve? The Federal Reserve cannot be eliminated. Contrary to popular belief and the movements, at this juncture at least, and if I have a crystal ball, there's no political will to eliminate the Federal Reserve. One of the reasons is our addiction to spending, and that partially comes from our addiction to war. Spend about $1 trillion a year on the military, defending who knows what and who knows who. And that's the truth. So this addiction to war and addiction to spending will not allow the Federal Reserve to stop printing money. If we want a more peaceful, greater, beautiful society where we spend resources on development, technology, education, and people, the Federal Reserve has to be eliminated. But it won't be, because the debt will just continue to increase. An alternative would be the gold standard, again, but there's no way that's going to happen. A classic gold standard was a gilded age in the United States. It was eliminated, and the remnants of the gold standard under Bretton Woods was eliminated by Richard Nixon. So an alternative to the gold standard is to allow competing currencies. Just simply saying, okay, don't treat gold and silver as a collectible, and you don't tax it as a collectible, and it can be accepted as legal tender. Don't eliminate the Fed, but have competing currencies. Allow foreign currencies to be legal tender in the United States. It sounds unpatriotic, but if it's the most patriotic thing we could do. Because when individuals, countries, or even metals can be treated as a currency, then the Federal Reserve has real market competition, and the price of the interest rate will fluctuate with supply and demand. And we will be at a better society. We'll create a greater society. We'll be eliminating poverty. We'll be helping the poor. We'll be creating technologies that will eliminate suffering in the world. This monopoly on the Federal Reserve restricts that, again, through allocative and productive efficiency. It seems very abstract, But if you think about money being the primary transaction across all markets, everybody exchanges something for money, then that's what it means. To give you an example, would you rather be some high-tech United States free country, or would you rather be a slow-growth Japan? In a sense, the United States is not going to collapse because the Federal Reserve is here. There's a lot of talk in the blogosphere, on the internet, that the United States will collapse. It won't collapse. It won't have a Great Depression because there's too many automatic stabilizers. There's already, like I've said, the government is largely involved in the hands of everything, from FDIC insurance at $250,000 to everybody and their mother is either on disability, getting a pension, in the military, or a family in the military, or something in that regards. So there's too many automatic stabilizers for a complete collapse. What more likely will happen will be the United States or Japan. A country where everybody's living in these little hovels, maybe, if they're lucky, and their incomes are just enough to pay the bills if they're lucky. And everybody's just, being very humble about it, and okay, this is all we have from the government, we're getting these little crumbles. So if you want to keep the Federal Reserve, this is where we're going, the United States or Japan. If you want to eliminate and allow the Federal Reserve and allow competing currencies, and that is a very simple stroke of the pen, eliminating the capital gains tax on competing currencies, then you're going to find a more prosperous, freer country. And that's what it's all about. So if the United States wants this second revolution to eliminate the king, it would be a peaceful revolution of eliminating the Federal Reserve. Thank you very much.